This podcast is brought to you by the Big Bad Box.
Welcome to the AI Analysis Podcast. Today we're taking a look at a great cause to help animals that are often overlooked.
And we really mean overlooked. Like, these are not the animals you typically see on the front of a rescue brochure.
No, definitely not. So I recently listened to this absolutely fantastic conversation on the Arete Podcast. It featured Lianne, who is an educator and guide from Wild Education. And honestly, it completely reframed how I look at exotic pets.
Oh, I bet. I mean, the work they do over at Wild Education, which is out in Langley, British Columbia, by the way, is just incredible. They step in to take the animals that the local SPCA generally isn't equipped to handle.
Right, because we were talking about reptiles, tarantulas, scorpions, and then exotics like ferrets, chinchillas, and get this, a wild African serval named Gary who lost his tail.
Which is wild. When most of us hear animal rescue, we picture golden retrievers or kittens. But rescuing a serval or a tarantula is an entirely different world.
It really is. And our mission today is to explore the secret lives of these misunderstood creatures, talk about the massive challenges involved in rescuing them, and then look at some super practical ways you can help wildlife right in your own backyard.
Yeah, the psychology behind why these animals even end up in rescue is fascinating. Like, take Buster the macaw.
Oh, Buster. That story's just crazy.
Right. People buy these beautiful birds because they look incredible in a living room, but they don't do the research on their cognitive needs. A macaw is a highly intelligent flock animal.
Yeah, and Lianne said it's basically like adopting a toddler that throws violent temper tantrums. Like it demands your attention by screaming at the top of its lungs and flings its dinner at the wall.
Exactly. But this toddler has a beak that can snap a broomstick in half. And oh yeah, it's going to live for the next 70 years.
It's mind-blowing. Adopting an animal like that without understanding the biology, it's essentially like marrying someone after a first date without asking if they want kids. It's a multi-decade commitment.
It really is. And it's the exact same story with the sulcata tortoises they take in. These animals routinely live to be 80 and can sometimes hit 120 years old.
Which means they will literally outlive you.
Yeah, it moves way beyond being a pet and becomes an estate planning issue. You have to put a tortoise in your will and secure a trust for its care.
That is just wild to think about. But it seems like the underlying issue driving these surrenders isn't just a lack of research. It's, well, kind of a lack of biological empathy, right?
Absolutely. When a puppy is abandoned, our inherent mammalian nurturing instinct kicks in. Puppies have that charismatic megafauna appeal, big eyes, soft fur.
Right, but a tarantula or a snake,
Yeah.
that triggers an ingrained, almost culturally reinforced fear response for a lot of people.
Which is incredibly tragic, especially when you listen to how Lianne actually describes interacting with them. Did you catch the part about Gretchen the tarantula?
Yes, she was talking about holding this massive tarantula, and she said the sensation of it walking on her hand literally just felt like soft pipe cleaners.
Pipe cleaners. I mean, people feel this visceral panic when they see a spider. But there was no aggression, no menace.
And she mentioned that there is no tarantula on Earth with venom that is deadly to a human. Assuming you don't have a rare allergy, the worst bite from one is roughly equivalent to a bee sting.
It's so true. The fear we have is largely fueled by these fabricated internet myths. We project human malice onto animals that are literally just operating on instinct.
Oh, like the snake myth.
Yes, the classic one. The story of the snake that stops eating and lies stretched out next to its owner in bed to size them up for a meal.
I have heard that exact story from at least 3 different people. And they all swore it happened to a friend of a friend.
It always happens to a friend of a friend. But it falls apart the second you apply basic biology to it. Snakes are ambush predators. They don't have the cognitive ability to measure their food, nor do they need to.
Right. If a wild snake had to lie parallel to a rat to calculate its dimensions, it would starve to death.
Exactly. So if a pet snake is stretching out next to you or climbing up your arm, it's doing so for a very simple reason: thermoregulation.
Because humans radiate a steady body heat.
Right, about 98.6 degrees. To a cold-blooded animal, you are not a calculated meal. You are effectively a mobile, very warm tree.
A warm tree. I love that. Like, think about finding a hot radiator in a freezing room. You don't care who owns the radiator, you just want to sit next to it.
Exactly. It completely shifts the dynamic from a horror movie to something much more benign. But that misplaced fear has devastating consequences.
Yeah, it really does. That brings up the story of Galaxy the tegu. A tegu is this large lizard, and Galaxy is apparently this incredibly affectionate guy who just wants to cuddle and bury his head in your neck.
But his back is covered in a galaxy pattern of white scars.
Which is just heartbreaking. Those scars are from severe neglect. His previous owners put a heating lamp way too close to his enclosure and gave him agonizing thermal burns.
And the internal damage was even worse. Galaxy suffers from incurable metabolic bone disease. And you know why? Because his previous owners fed him nothing but ground turkey.
Which is so crazy because, to a layperson, feeding a pet ground turkey sounds premium.
Yeah.
Like you're giving it this high-quality, expensive diet.
It sounds caring, but biologically it's a death sentence for a lizard like a tegu. They require whole prey, like mice or rats, because they need to digest the actual bones to get calcium.
Oh.
And they also need specific UVA and UVB lighting. Without that spectrum of light, a reptile's body physically cannot synthesize vitamin D.
And without vitamin D, they can't absorb calcium.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
the body just starts stealing calcium from its own skeleton just to keep the heart beating. Their bones literally become soft and rubbery. Galaxy will never fully recover from that.
That is just awful. And because animals like Galaxy aren't traditionally cute, the public fear of reptiles directly translates into a huge lack of conservation and rescue funding.
Which is exactly why wild education is facing an existential crisis right now. They do incredible boots-on-the-ground educational work.
Yeah, Lianne drives up to 4 hours, staying in hotels, just to bring these animals to schools. She even brings hand-raised chinchillas that climb on her shoulders.
Didn't one of them steal her earring during a presentation?
Yes, it's such great hands-on education. But right now, they are facing eviction. They have to move by March, and this will be their third move in 5 years.
And the instability is almost entirely driven by the stigma surrounding their animals. 5 years ago, they lost their space because neighboring businesses were terrified the snakes would somehow escape and attack them.
So they moved to a bison farm, which sounds like the perfect rural setup.
Yeah.
But the farm lost a government grant, and the board decided to prematurely build a grocery store on the property.
So they are out. And moving a rescue like this is not like moving apartments. Let's talk about Gaga.
Gaga the tortoise. He is a 35-year-old sulcata tortoise who weighs 120 pounds. And he is an absolute menace, but in the best way.
Right. Lianne said whenever she cleans his enclosure, Gaga aggressively chases her in a slow game of tag, trying to eat her shoes.
Imagine the logistics of that. Moving a sleeper sofa is miserable enough. Now, imagine trying to transport a 120-pound shoe-eating tortoise, a colony of chinchillas, venomous scorpions, and a serval.
It's staggering. But the logistics are compounded by the regulatory environment in British Columbia. The government is currently considering a ban on mobile presentations involving exotic animals.
Which would effectively criminalize Lianne's job, right?
Yes. And cut off the rescue's primary source of funding. They survive on educational school tours and birthday parties, not government grants.
Now, my first thought when I hear about banning exotic pets is that it's probably a good thing. Like, it stops people from impulsively buying a macaw. But listening to the interview, it seems like a ban actually guarantees more suffering.
Yeah, you're hitting on the core debate between banning versus regulating. A ban is meant to protect animal welfare, but the real-world consequence is that it forces ownership underground.
Right, because if bearded dragons get banned, owners aren't going to surrender their beloved pets to be euthanized. They're going to hide them in the basement.
And an animal in a basement never sees a vet. If an owner is terrified of being fined, they will try to treat complex illnesses like metabolic bone disease themselves. It leads to immense suffering.
That makes total sense.
A prime example of how confusing these bans are is the axolotl. In BC, they ban harmless native species like garter snakes, but they also ban axolotls, likely out of fear they'll become invasive.
But axolotls are functionally extinct in the wild, aren't they?
They are. The entire global population only survives today because of captive breeding by enthusiasts and scientists. So by banning them, the government is criminalizing the exact network keeping the species alive.
So the answer is strict regulation, not prohibition. Mandate proper enclosure sizes, require permits for lighting and diet, but let them exist legally so they can get medical care.
Precisely. Regulation protects the animal. A ban just hides the abuse.
Well, Wild Education is trying to solve their housing crisis by raising $1 million to buy a permanent forever home. But it's ironic because we all have habitats right outside our windows that we manage, and often we're actively destroying them without realizing it.
Which is such a good point. And you can fix your own habitat right now.
Exactly. And that actually ties in perfectly with our sponsor today, the Big Bat Box Company.
Yes, the link is in the description, and this is a genuinely brilliant product. Installing a bat box is arguably the most effective form of organic, chemical-free pest control available.
If you hate mosquitoes, bats are the ultimate solution. A single bat can eat thousands of mosquitoes in one night, but they need a very specific environment to roost.
Right, and Big Bat Box Company makes these beautiful, decorative wooden boxes designed to mimic the space between tree bark and a trunk.
You just mount them high up on a wall or a pole, like 12 to 20 feet off the ground, creating a safe haven from predators. They absorb heat, creating the perfect microclimate for bats to sleep during the day.
And they also sell bee boxes and owl boxes. It's just a brilliant, passive way to support the local ecosystem while making your backyard much more enjoyable.
And that concept of passive support, this idea of micro-conservation, was a central theme of the practical advice Lianne shared.
It's so important because people frequently feel paralyzed by the scale of global environmental issues. They feel like if they aren't donating millions, they can't make a difference.
But local micro-conservation often requires very little effort. Sometimes it literally requires you to do nothing at all.
Yeah, the doing nothing part is great. Like with lawn care, Lianne's advice was simply leave the leaves.
Right, because every autumn, we rake up all the fallen leaves, stuff them in plastic bags, and send them to a landfill.
But that leaf litter is a vital microhabitat. If you live in an area with fireflies or lightning bugs, those leaves are an absolute requirement for their survival.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Firefly larvae live in that decaying leaf matter. They feed on the snails and slugs in it. By doing nothing, just leaving the leaves on the edges of your lawn, you are preserving the entire life cycle of local insects.
That is so cool. Another big piece of advice, and I know this always sparks a heated debate, is keeping domestic cats indoors.
Oh yeah, cats are incredible predators. But when they roam free, they act as tiny, highly efficient killing machines. They decimate local bird and small mammal populations.
Because they hunt for sport, not just food. Lianne advocates for keeping them inside, leash training them, or building a catio, like an enclosed patio.
And it protects the cats, too. Keeping them inside saves them from larger predators like coyotes and keeps them from getting hit by cars.
Absolutely. Now, I have to bring up the spiders again.
Yeah.
I hear the logic that they act as natural pest control, but if I look up in the shower and see a spider, my instinct is pure panic. How do we override that?
It requires a conscious shift. The key realization is that house spiders, the ones in the corner of your ceiling, are a distinct species adapted to live exclusively indoors.
They like the dry, climate-controlled spaces we build.
Exactly. So if you trap that spider in a cup and put it outside in the cold grass to save it, you are almost certainly handing it a death sentence. It cannot survive out there.
Wait, so by putting it outside because I'm scared, I'm actually killing it?
Yes. When you realize the spider is essentially trapped in your house just trying to survive, and its only food is the annoying flies that get inside, it goes from being an invasive monster to a quiet, helpful roommate.
A helpful roommate. Okay, I can try to see it that way. Especially jumping spiders. Those are actually pretty cute and totally harmless.
They are. And the same logic applies to your garden. People panic and kill garter snakes in their flower beds. But garter snakes are your primary defense against slugs.
And slugs are the actual pests destroying the plants.
Right. Just leave the snake alone and it will keep your garden healthy. It all comes down to pausing before you react.
Speaking of reacting, Lianne offered a brilliant piece of emergency prep everyone should do. She says to always keep a towel and a standard pillowcase in your car trunk.
The pillowcase makes so much sense. If you find a displaced or injured snake, a pillowcase is the safest way to transport it.
Because the fabric is breathable, but it's dark inside, which instantly calms the animal down.
Exactly. And the towel is for injured mammals, like an opossum hit by a car. You can wrap it up to protect yourself from bites while keeping it warm.
And opossums are incredibly beneficial to have around. They eat thousands of ticks, helping control Lyme disease, and they are virtually immune to rabies because their body temperature is so low.
They are amazing creatures. And the final part of that emergency prep is simple. Save the phone number of your local wildlife rescue in your phone contacts right now.
Yes, do it before you actually need it. If you're stressed on the side of a road, frantically Googling wastes precious time. Having that number ready could be the difference between life and death for an animal.
It really could. You know, looking at everything we've discussed today, from the tegu's lighting needs to a snake looking for warmth, a very clear theme emerges.
Yeah, the destructive impact of human projection.
Exactly. We assume a snake is maliciously calculating its next meal when it's just looking for a heat source. We assume a tarantula is an aggressive monster when physically it's as soft as a pipe cleaner.
It really makes you wonder.
It does. It leaves us with a necessary, slightly uncomfortable question. If our unchecked biases have caused us to so fundamentally misunderstand these animals, what other parts of the natural world, or even the people around us, are we entirely misjudging simply because we haven't taken the time to observe them without our own fears getting in the way?
If you want to help Wild Education, check out the link in the description to visit their GoFundMe page. Also, don't forget to check out the original podcast, too. We'll see you next time.
In Langley, British Columbia, lives one of Western Canada's best-kept secrets. We are Wild Education, Western Canada's largest reptile and small exotic animal rescue. And right now, we're launching our most urgent fundraiser ever.
Less than 1 year ago, we opened the doors to our brand new education center, a space we poured all of our savings into building. But due to changes in land development, we found out we only have 9 months to find a new place and move out. This will be the third time in 5 years we've been forced to relocate, and this time, we simply don't have the funds to do it again.
Unlike traditional rescues with puppies and kittens, reptiles don't get the same level of support. But our animals need it just as much because they don't have anywhere else to go. That's why we're asking for your help now.
Last year alone, we took in 153 animals, including reptiles, amphibians, and furry exotics like chinchillas, sugar gliders, ferrets, and even hedgehogs. Many came to us sick, injured, abandoned, or surrendered by families who could no longer care for them due to the rising cost of living.
One of those animals was Gary, a serval who couldn't find a home anywhere else in BC after his family broke apart. No one else could take him in, but we did. Because oftentimes, we are the last resort.
We are currently also home to 12 rescued sulcata tortoises, some weighing over 120 pounds. But we know more will come in this year, who need lots of space, warmth, and lifelong care. Wild Education isn't just a rescue, it's a mission. Our entire rescue is funded by our education program. This program travels to schools and other events to help teach about the natural history, conservation, and responsible ownership of these amazing animals. We give people the knowledge to hopefully prevent animals from ending up in our rescue in the first place.
But now, more than ever, the future of Wild Education, its current animals, its future animals depends on your support. We know it's a lot, but we're trying to raise $1 million to buy a permanent property. A forever home where we'll never have to move again, and where our animals can finally be safe for good.
So if you've ever wanted to make a big difference in the life of something a little different, this is your moment. Please visit www.wildeducation.ca to donate or click on the GoFundMe link. We need your help to save Wild Education so we can keep saving them.